And a welcome to the Canes Corner podcast, live here on YouTube. I am Adam Gold. Thanks for hanging out. This is, I guess, Canes Corner live on YouTube number 2. We did it after the Canes and the Tampa Bay Lightning about, 9 days ago. We'll do preseason game number 3 for us tomorrow. And then we get it all underway against the Ottawa Senators on Wednesday, October 11th from PNC Arena. Very excited to be back. And for those of you who are hanging out with us on YouTube, by all means, if you got a question, fire it up in the comments and we will get right to it. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. As you can see in the corner of your screen, right there, little banner in the upper right, lower left. Not really sure how it looks to you, but upper right, lower left. And we're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it's for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna's crew do a great job. We thank them for being along for the ride all season long. And the season includes the preseason, as long as it doesn't have overtime. I'm good with it. Also, this is available in the normal podcast feed eventually. It'll be, it doesn't go up at the exact same time as we do this, but give it about hour and a half, and it shows up in the normal podcast feed. So if you just can't get to a YouTube machine, you can get to a podcaster, I'm sure. All right. Bunch of things I want to do here as we get to it. And yes, I'm going to get to questions, I promise. Some of the questions I may already answer throughout the normal course of our conversation. But again, we're here on YouTube after every game. All right. Should we talk about the game? I can't think of a reason to talk about it except for 2. First, Antti Ranta, who I know allowed 5 goals, but I thought played pretty well. And then Pyotr Kochetkov. The only reasons for me to talk about this particular game tonight, because I don't think it was a great example of Hurricanes hockey. Well, the first 3.5 minutes were. Good steal by Jamison Reese, pass to Felix Unger-Sorum, and the quick pass right across to Ryan Suzuki. I thought Sorum was good to a point until nobody was good anymore. Suzuki was good on the goal, but I didn't particularly think was good the rest of the night. And then he got hurt too. And if you're a Ryan Suzuki supporter, it has to be concerning that this guy has such a hard time staying healthy. And of course, the injury that really got in the way of his career was the eye injury he suffered back right after being drafted. So hopefully he'll be okay. I know he missed training camp last year and missed a good chunk of the season last year. Hopefully he'll be all right, and he'll be able to go to wherever the Hurricanes stash minor leaguers, and we're going to talk about that. But really like to see Ryan Suzuki establish himself as something that can be attractive to the Carolina Hurricanes or another NHL team. Look, not all your prospects become players for you. Sometimes you don't have room, and those prospects need to be moved on, either for something you definitely need or maybe for future prospects. I'll give you an example of that. Hurricanes traded Julien Gauthier a few years ago to the Rangers. Actually, I don't even know where Gauthier is right now. I think he's on his 3rd or 4th team. But anyway, the Hurricanes had nothing. There was no more room for Gauthier. You couldn't keep sending him back to the minor leagues. He was running out of options for them. So they basically sent him to the Rangers, and they got a younger prospect, one that I don't even recall right now because he's not with the Hurricanes. So who knows what the future is for Ryan Suzuki? You just want him to stay healthy and realize his potential. The other part of the Hurricanes injury bug today was in the 3rd period, Felix Unger-Sorum got hurt. We don't really know the extent of it. Hopefully that's not a big deal because I mean, I asked Rod today, and I've talked about it with Tripp. And I know Tripp was talking about it on the broadcast tonight. In some ways, the Andrei Svechnikov not yet ready to play, although we don't know this for a fact, but he has not played in the preseason. He will not play tomorrow, Friday, has opened up a spot possibly for a winger to be in the lineup. Now, the Hurricanes have 13, including Svechnikov, 13 NHL forwards. Brendan Lemieux would be, if everybody is healthy, the healthy extra. But if Svechnikov's not going to be in the lineup, then they have 12 forwards. They don't need another forward. But if you want somebody who might be able to put the puck in the net, and you want to give that fourth line, if you will, a little bit of an extra scoring boost to go along with, my guess is here, Jack Drury and Stefan Nason, Felix Ungersorum on the right side of it. And by the way, Noel Goodler has played well as well. And he's already in your minor league system. He was, I believe he was a minor leaguer last year. So maybe the last 2 years. One of those guys might be a viable option at that spot. But the intriguing thing is that Ungersorum has basically, he just turned 18. September 14th, he turned 18. Yeah, 21 days ago, 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, Tuesday. I don't know how many days ago it is now. Anyway, it's just something worth thinking about. And I think the organization has thought about it. I just wonder if even this injury tonight, whatever it is, and hopefully it's not serious, that maybe it causes them to go, yeah, you know what? Why mess around with it? He's not going to stay here. But it would be nice to see him play in a bona fide NHL game. Doesn't have to be the opener. And in fact, I can make the argument that it shouldn't be the opener, but maybe it's like the third game in Anaheim. Hurricanes open up on Wednesday against Ottawa here. Then they go to Los Angeles for a 10:30 Saturday night start, Eastern time. It's not 10:30 local. And then they play the next day at 8:30 in Anaheim. Maybe that's the game that you let Felix Ungersorum play. I don't know. But all of this is 100% speculative. But that's just something to think about. But for me, the only thing worth talking about regarding the game, apart from maybe the first 3.5 minutes when Carolina's forecheck was on and they had the puck, kept taking the puck from Nashville and eventually got the first goal. The only thing really worth talking about is that Raanta played well. Fourth goal, I think he wants back because it was a bad rebound to give up. And Pyotr Kochetkov in the third period, who was off the chain. He was outstanding. He was my first star, and he played one period. We have to give out stars every day. It doesn't really matter whether they win or lose. For those of you who follow me on Twitter at @AGoldFan, you know that I do 3 stars of the game on Twitter, but only after wins and only Carolina's own players. If you don't play for the Hurricanes, you are not a star in my book. So both goalies look very good. And I thought Kochetkov looked, I know Tripp talked about it, but I'm going to pretend that I said it first because I said it before him as I was listening on headsets. I was struck by simply how quiet in terms of movement Pyotr Kochetkov was. When you remember Peter Mrazek or Alex Nedeljkovic as goaltenders with Carolina, but I'm going to bring it all the way back to Cam Ward. Kochetkov and Cam have, I think, very similar builds. I always thought that Cam's secret when he was at his best was that it was really an economy of movement. There's just nothing wasted. And I thought tonight, Kochetkov was quiet. His movement was efficient. And you didn't see a lot of, you know, fish on the dock in the sun. He wasn't flopping around all over the place. He did lose his stick a couple of times. Shouts to Alex Nedeljkovic, who lost his stick every game, I believe. But his movement was just outstanding tonight. So I think an encouraging sign. He's not going to be the goalie on opening night. I'd be stunned if he was. It's going to be Freddie Anderson, barring an injury tomorrow night. I assume Anderson will play tomorrow. Maybe we'll see a little bit of Anderson, a little bit of Yanni Peretz. I don't know. But Kochetkov was really good tonight and showed that he could play. But we all knew that he could play. He's just got to get more consistent. And because of that, I do think he's going to start the season in the minor leagues if Don Waddell can find a spot in the minor leagues for him. As a plug ahead, Monday on the day job, we will have a conversation with Don Waddell about a lot of things, including where you're sending all these guys. And the Hurricanes still have 44 players on their roster. My guess is that number will go down significantly, if not before tomorrow, certainly in the next day or two after. So they can send a bunch of players either back to minor league teams or send them overseas. And if Unger Sorum doesn't get a cameo with the big club, he's going to go back to Leksand in the Swedish Hockey League. You know, it's a good club. He's been playing for the junior team, but I want to see him play against grown men. Remember, Jack Drury's first year of professional hockey, he spent playing in the Swedish Hockey League. And I believe he finished third in the Rookie of the Year voting that year. It's a great league. It's not a high-scoring league, but it's a great league. The kid has every chance to be really good, and that's good. Let's see. We've already talked about Felix Unger Sorum. We already talked about the goaltenders, because we're not going to be here a ton, right? I would even say we're about halfway through this sucker. And again, be here tomorrow night as well. Let's get to the roster a little bit. And I've been saying this all along. There are no spots. There's really no spots available. I mean, we could pretend there are spots, and there is a spot as an extra forward today. When Svechnikov comes back, I don't think the Hurricanes are going to carry 23 players unless they carry all three goaltenders to start the season. I think when everybody's healthy, they will have 7 defensemen. They will have 13 forwards. And the only way they'll get to 23 on the active roster is if they carry a third goalie, which I guess they could, but I wouldn't. Because if Kochetkov is not playing, then he is not getting better. He needs to play. So the Hurricanes, again, if you go down the lines, and we'll do the lines here, Bunting, Aho, Jarvis, or Jarvis, Aho, Bunting for the jab line. Then you got, knowing that there's no Andrei Svechnikov, at least right now, and my guess is at best 50-50 to play in the opener. I don't think he will. I think the team is going to take it slow. And I've said this before, said it on a recent podcast, said it on the air, on the radio, said it in my interview with Trip Tracy and Rod Brindamore. Games 1 through 6, 1 through 7, those don't matter. I mean, they matter, but they don't matter. They don't matter as much as games 83 through 105, or whatever the number totally will be when the Hurricanes win a Stanley Cup. Andre's got to be good to go then. And anything that gets in the way of that is a bad idea. So until he's absolutely 100%, Andre don't play, which Andre understands, by the way. But you've got Svech, who my guess is won't be on the active roster to open the season, which now leaves you with 12 forwards. You've got the jab line. You've got the best of the 80s with Kotkaniemi centering Natchez and Teravainen. Then you've got the captain's line, the shutdown identity line. Can I use that? Am I allowed to? Michael Leboff of the Action Network, my friend, the Islanders fan. You've got Stahl with Martinook and Fost. And then you have, I don't know what to call this line because who knows who's going to be on it. But right now, it would be Drury with Nason and Brendan Lemieux. And that's if Carolina doesn't carry an extra forward, even as Svechnikov works his way back into the lineup. Who that extra forward would be if it's not Felix Unger-Sorum? Could be Jamison Reese. It could be one of the veterans who was here on a PTO. But to be perfectly honest, has anyone stood out other than Felix Unger-Sorum? And I guess to an extent, Noel Gunler has stood out. But has anybody else stood out? Like, I think we want to make believe that one of the guys on PTO is a legit option for Carolina's roster. I think in a perfect world, we all know Zach Aston Reese can play. So if the Hurricanes wanted to keep Zach Aston Reese, you sign him to a league minimum contract and keep him on the active roster until they were ready to activate Svechnikov, I guess that's okay. But ultimately, I think everybody, if the Hurricanes think, well, let's try it, they could sign him to a contract and put him through waivers because he'd have to go through waivers to send him to the minor leagues. Maybe he clears waivers and you keep him. And you won't be able to control him. And again, we'll talk to Don Waddell about where all the players go. But I'm not sure that there are any of the PTO guys that were that good that you'd want to keep. They was it Jaden Helga something Waka Flocka. Don't know. I'm glad they cut him loose today so we didn't have to say his name. No offense. But I'm not sure any of those guys played well enough. Corey Conacher, I mean, we recognize his name. We certainly know Zach Aston Reese, who I believe scored, I don't know, a handful of goals for the Maple Leafs. Played, I think he had 10 goals, 77 games for Toronto last year. Hey, I mean, if that, and he can be a center. I mean, theoretically, you could keep him to maybe light a fire under Jack Drury, and you could play Aston Reese in the middle and Drury on the wing, and ZAR can play either. So that's another, I guess, potential option. But here's what I think is going to happen as we get to closer to opening night. I don't think they're going to keep any of the PTO guys. I think they're going to put Dylan Coghlan and Caleb Jones through waivers. And I don't think anybody is going to claim either. I guess a slight chance that Caleb Jones might get claimed. And if the Hurricanes feel like that will happen, they might just keep Jones on the active roster because they can do that right now. And maybe strategically you wait as teams put a lot of other players through waivers and guys get snapped up. So maybe Jones will slip through. If he's not waived initially, maybe he'll slip through another couple of days later. Either way, I think Caleb Jones and Dylan Coghlan end up being minor league, AHL players somewhere. Ideally, together in the same spot somewhere, but I don't think that's going to happen. But that's what I would do there. The rookies, the young guys, the prospects, you don't need to have waivers on them. The Hurricanes can and likely will send Pyotr Kochetkov to the American Hockey League, and he does not have to clear waivers because he wouldn't. He wouldn't clear waivers. So there is that. And I think that the Hurricanes are going to, again, send out all of their prospects somewhere. And I don't think they'll sign any of the PTO guys. And I think you'll see Jones and Coghlan go through waivers so they can assign them to the minor league somewhere. Theoretically, if the Hurricanes wanted to, they could sign a Zach Aston Reese or a Corey Conacher or somebody else to a contract and then put them through waivers. And I'm telling you, nobody would claim them. Nobody would claim those guys. And that's how you get down to 23 or 22. Because that's what I think ultimately they're going to do. I think when they're completely healthy, they'll carry 22. And that'll shake itself out. I don't think you'll see, let me just quickly about tomorrow before we shut this down. I don't think you'll see anybody who played tonight play tomorrow. I think you're going to basically see the NHL lineup, albeit if they don't want to let Lemieux play back-to-back games, which would be fair, I could see them giving another young player another game, and I could even see them say Stahl, Martinook, Fost aren't going to play. Or I think you'll see Aho, Jarvis, and Bunting play, but I could see him giving the Stahl line one more night off. They had to play in one of the split squad games, everybody. And in that case, you might see another young guy or two in the lineup. Maybe they don't give an entire line off. Maybe they just give a couple of players off. So you might see a Noel Gunler play one more time. You might see a Jamison Reese play one more time. As long as he's okay, you might see a Felix Ungersorm play one more time. But I think you're going to have the NHL lineup tomorrow night. I think you'll have Freddie Anderson in goal, and I think Anderson will be in goal against the Ottawa Senators on the 11th, and I think Antti Ranta will back him up, and I think Pyotr Kochetkov will be somewhere in a minor league rink. And that's okay. Still part of your future, and you know beyond a shadow of doubt that either Antti Ranta or Freddie Anderson are going to be in the infirmary at some point, probably soon, because that's the history. But for right now, Carolina's got, I think, only good problems. And that is pretty much it from a game that we're not talking about, because there was really nothing to talk about. The only other thing about the game that I would point out, by the way, I do think it's interesting that they're going to the tablet more. Very nice. Hopefully they're nicer to the tablet than Brian Daboll was to the tablet. Brian Daboll, Giants head coach. This certainly makes Rod happy because Rod wants everything reviewed. He's a little crazy that way. I thought the penalty kill was a mess the first go-round on the Forsberg goal. But it got pretty good after that. Well, a lot of that was the goaltender, but Carolina's penalty kill got pretty good after that. And that's all I got for you tonight. I'm sorry. There really wasn't much to talk about the game. We don't want to empty the entire clip before the preseason finale tomorrow, when we're actually going to be in the building with our eyes on the NHL team. So with all of that said, we're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it's for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham, aluminumcompany.com. Sammy Hanna's crew do a great job, so check them out for any of your home improvement needs. Final thing, it is a request from me to you, and that is simply subscribe to this. Make it a habit. I don't know, but subscribe to it. And I think there is some kind of a button that you have to press. I like to say caress the button. Just caress the button. All right? I don't need you to smash it. I don't need you to bang it. I just need you to give it a love tap. So you're here all the time, because if I'm here all the time, I do require you to be here all the time. Until tomorrow, after the Hurricanes wrap up the friendly series, I'm Adam Gold. This has been the Canes Corner podcast, and I will see you right here on YouTube tomorrow.